What's up, sports fans? This is the Lucas Ross Sports Channel. We continue with our 2025 predictions for the upcoming 2025 college football season. Up next is the Auburn Tigers. Auburn, of course, coming off a very disappointing season last year. In 2024, going 5-7. Of course, Auburn last year going 5-7 because they lost just so many close games last year by either one possession or by a blowout. But yeah, this Auburn team, they were probably the best 5-7 team in all of college football. You look at this team for 2025, can they turn things around and get Hugh Freeze going for this Auburn football team? I think they actually have a chance to turn things around. The schedule is tough for them, but you look at this roster, it's pretty talented, offensively. I think they're going to be pretty explosive on that side of the football. You do have an upgrade at quarterback with Jackson Arnold taking over, a former 5-star recruit, and I think he'll fit well into this system. They have a pretty good running back group, and they also have a pretty good offensive line. So yeah, this offense overall, really no major concerns at all. Defensively, though, I think it's going to come down to the defense. They don't have a very talented defense, but I think they can have a chance to probably get that defense a little bit better, but it really does come down to the consistency of this Auburn team. If they are inconsistent this year, that's going to be probably a disappointing year for this Auburn team. But you look at the schedule, it's a pretty tough schedule in 2025. Again, this team was 5-7 last year in 2024. So let's go game by game, and I'll give you my official prediction for this Auburn football team for 2025. And of course, they're going to start things off on a Friday night, August 29th at Baylor out of the Big 12. Pretty big non-conference game here. These two teams very similar with the expectations coming up for this upcoming season. Both teams are probably being respected as like dark horse teams in their respective conferences, and they're also kind of teams that could be in the top 25. But I like this Baylor team a lot. I think Baylor is going to be a pretty good team this year. I think the rosters, maybe Auburn is probably a little bit of a better team on paper, but Baylor does have a lot of experience. I don't think they have the talent, but they definitely have a lot of experience, and they do have a pretty good quarterback as well. And yeah, this Baylor team, I feel like the game plan for them in this one, they will waste the clock down and probably run the football and keep that Auburn offense off the field for as long as possible. I mean, this is a game that really can go either way. I thought about picking Auburn to win this game, but I think home field advantage and plus on a Friday night, I think that's really the difference here in this one. I think the Baylor crowd will be fired up, especially when it's week 1 of the season. So I'm going Bears here in this one. I'm going to go with Baylor to win this game. I think it is a competitive game, but I'm going to say that Baylor does get the win. I'm going with a 3 or 4 point win in that game. So I got Auburn starting off 0-1, but then they beat Ball State and South Alabama in the next 2 weeks here in the month of September, and that's going to put them at 2-1. And then they go into conference play on the road at Oklahoma on September 20th. Interesting storyline going into this game. Jackson Arnold, if he's healthy by this time, he'll go up against his former team in Oklahoma. I like Oklahoma's defense a lot. Defensively, we know how strong they'll be on that side of the football, but I think the offense actually will be a little bit improved this year. They added John Matier at quarterback, so obviously a guy that has a ton of experience, and I think he'll provide a spark for this Sooner offense. I mean, defensively, Oklahoma is going to be a pretty tough defense to go up against. This game was pretty close last year. I do expect it to be a game that can go either way again this year in 2025, but I think playing at home, that's probably the difference here in this one. And this could be kind of similar to the Baylor game. It could be a game where Oklahoma runs the football and they waste the clock down and really wear down the defense of Auburn. And I think that's the difference here. And plus home field advantage, I'm going Oklahoma here to win this game. So I do got Auburn losing their second game of the season and then also their first SEC game of the season as well. And then it's also on the road at Texas A&M the next week. So they have back-to-back road games here with Oklahoma and Texas A&M on September 20th and September 27th. I think this is also kind of similar to the Oklahoma game. They come in, Auburn maybe is a little bit beat up, especially after playing an Oklahoma defense that's pretty physical. They come into this game pretty sloppy. Maybe they're, close with Texas A&M in the first half, but I think the Aggies probably find a way to pull away. And also Texas A&M with Marcel Reed running the football, that's going to give Auburn all kinds of problems. And also, this is a revenge game for Texas A&M. They went into a lot of overtimes last year. I do expect a pretty good game again here in this one. But I'm going Aggies here to get the revenge on Auburn. I think they win this one by at least double digits because I feel like Auburn's going to come in a little bit beat up, especially after playing Oklahoma the last week. So that's 2 losses to open up SEC play, and that's going to put them at 2-3. And then they finally get their first bye week. Pretty good spot for a bye week before a big game at home against Georgia on October the 11th. I think Auburn's got a pretty good shot here to pull off the upset, but I already chose Georgia to win this game. The Bulldogs overall is a team that I do trust, especially on the coaching staff. I think Kirby Smart will be ready for this game, especially with his defense. Offensively, they could have a pretty tough time in this one, but I feel like it's their defense that's going to keep them in this game pretty much throughout the remainder of the game. And this is also a night game. It's at Jordan-Hare, very tough place to play. And you got Gunnar Stockton, a new quarterback for this Georgia team that definitely doesn't have a lot of experience. Yeah, Auburn's got a pretty good shot here to pull off the upset, but I don't think it will be enough. I think Auburn does fall off short here against Georgia, and so I got this team now falling to 2-4. So 3 losses in a row after 2 wins in a row after Ball State and South Alabama. But then after that, they kind of get a break here to play Missouri at home on October 18th. But you never know. This Missouri team could probably give Auburn a pretty slow start. Offensively, I don't think the Missouri Tigers are going to be great on that side of the football like they've been in the last couple of years. But I think their defense can keep them in this game. This game could really go either way as well. But I think Auburn's kind of desperate for a win at this point. They definitely got to turn things around because I feel like you kind of question Hugh Freeze's job at this point. But I think Auburn actually does get the win here. So I'm going to go with the Tigers of Auburn in the Battle of the Tigers here in this one. So that's going to put Auburn now at 3-4, and then they go on the road to play Arkansas next on October the 25th. An Arkansas team that will be pretty similar to Auburn. They're going to be a pretty solid team, but they're also going to have a pretty good offense as well. Bobby Petrino, of course, took over as offensive coordinator, and this was a pretty good offense and a pretty tough offense to stop. Defensively, they do have some question marks there. So, yeah, this game right here could potentially be a shootout. Pretty much it's a tough one here to call for me. I'm going to go Arkansas just because of the home field advantage. So I got Auburn falling to Arkansas here on October 25th. That's going to put the Tigers now at 3-5, and then they get to the month of November. They'll play Kentucky at home here on November 1st. This will be a home game here for the Tigers. Kentucky is a team that obviously has a ton of question marks, a lot of new players on both sides of the football, and I am definitely concerned about their defense. They lost quite a bit on that side of the football last year. Maybe their offense will keep them in this game for quite a while, but still, I think Auburn is the better team. They do pull away from this Kentucky team and win it by at least a couple of touchdowns. So I'm going Auburn here over Kentucky in this game. That's going to put them at 4-5. Then they play on the road at Vanderbilt next here on November 8th. This is a game that I had a really tough time picking when I did my Vanderbilt video, not even too long ago. Yeah, this is a Vanderbilt team that's also going to want to run the football. It's going to be really similar to the Texas A&M, Oklahoma, maybe the Georgia and Baylor games, is we're a team that's going to run the football and waste the clock down. But I feel like Auburn's kind of desperate for a win at this point. They do want to get to a bowl game at least, and I think they come in fired up in this game. They start off slow. Mainly it's a close game in the first half, but I feel like Auburn's defense will probably step up in this one, and they kind of get better here down the stretch here in the month of November. So I think I'm going to go with Auburn here to get the win over Vanderbilt. This is a prediction that I don't feel confident with, but I'm going to go with it anyway. Again, I can see Vanderbilt definitely pulling off this win and probably ruining Auburn's season, but still, I'm going to go with Auburn here to win this game, and I got them improving to 6-5. They also beat Mercer. Coming out of a bye week, that's a strange time for a bye week before playing a little bit of a lesser non-conference opponent, but then they play Alabama to close things out on November 29th in the Iron Bowl. Obviously, this game last year was not even close between these two teams. Alabama dominated, so Auburn gets them at home this time. Obviously in the history of Alabama football, we've seen them struggle here at Jordan-Hare. Obviously, that was during the Nick Saban era, but this is not a Nick Saban Alabama team anymore. This is a Kalen DeBoer team, and obviously Alabama dominated because it was at Tuscaloosa. This year, this will be the first time that Kalen DeBoer will be traveling to Jordan-Hare. I think Auburn will make this game a lot closer than it was last year. It does definitely go into the fourth quarter, but at the end of the day, I do trust Alabama's roster a little bit more, and whoever winds up being the quarterback quarterback. They might be better by this time. And Alabama is probably a team that you don't want to play in the month of November. And they also got plenty of weapons at wide receiver. So the secondary for the Tigers really have to step up in this game. But I'm actually going to go with Alabama to beat Auburn here at Jordan-Hare. So even though I think this Auburn team will be better compared to last year, I got this team finishing 6-6. So I know a lot of Auburn fans will not agree with this prediction, but I'm going to go with it anyway. I can definitely see this team going 7-5 or 8-4. I can definitely see them potentially pulling off an upset against either Georgia or Alabama. That's potentially the two biggest games here on their schedule. And then obviously the road games. I mean, Oklahoma and Texas A&M are really tough back-to-back road games. Maybe they win one of those back-to-back road games, though. Maybe the best chance is probably against Oklahoma than Texas A&M because it's tough to win back-to-back road games in the SEC. But I wouldn't be surprised if they did probably slip up against Vanderbilt either. And if they do slip up against Vanderbilt, that could be a disappointing year. It could probably be 5-7, but I got this team going 6-6. But I think 7-5, 8-4 are definitely possible for this Auburn team. But that is my prediction. I'm going to go 6-6 here for the Tigers. So that's my prediction for Auburn. Give me your prediction for this team down in the comments below. Thank you for watching this video, and stay tuned for more sports content videos on my Lucas Ross Sports YouTube channel.